province. So we actually had to write 2 separate distinct documents for a project that cost less than $2 million to install. Ridiculous. The fact that the federal government gave money to our partner, which initially began as the Toronto Renewable Energy Cooperative and later devolved into Windshare. They provided grants to them because this was a great, innovative idea. What a great idea. A community cooperative of individuals, totaling about 420, who put their own money on the table, raised $800,000 themselves, partnered with Toronto Hydro to buy the machine, put the machine up, and so on. But that grant of about $50,000 put us into an environmental assessment, which then, as I said, resulted in half of our incentive money being taken away by the province. So that is one obvious barrier. The federal and provincial governments need to get their act together and actually start working cooperatively to ensure that we do have more investment in wind energy. And I can tell you that that incentive program, which I'm mentioning, it was destined to end in 2011. But there's been so much interest in it because there's developments all across the country in every province, essentially, that the money is going to run out before the end of this year. And that money we hoped was going to be replaced in the January 2009 budget statement. And we as the industry association have been lobbying hard for the federal government to make an announcement that either extended that particular incentive program or announce something new. And we were promised right up to literally the day before the budget that that was going to happen. And then the day of the budget, that did not happen. What happened instead was that about, I don't know the exact number for this, but I know it's approximately $300 million, was announced for clean coal, which in my mind is a complete contradiction in terms. And also a continuation of incentives and support for AECL, which of course is Canada's nuclear industry. So to put that in perspective, our tax dollars have subsidized the AECL and other agencies that promote nuclear to the tune of $20 billion since 1952. And the wind industry has received in total just over $1 billion for this program I'm mentioning, and was not, as mentioned, re-announced in the January budget. Right now there's about 2,000 megawatts under contract to provincial agencies that are in the queue for that federal incentive, and obviously it's going to run out by the end of the year. I'm not exactly sure how much money's in there, but I think it's about $400,000 only. And so obviously these projects, which have had to go through a federal environmental assessment to get that money to begin with, are not going to be successful. And this is a huge, huge problem. When you look south, as Tom had mentioned, we see buckets of money going to renewables under the new Obama administration. We also see fabulous interest coming from Europe looking at North America as potential investment, especially Germans, especially the Germans and the Spanish, and the Danes, who are leaders in wind energy from a manufacturing and a servicing perspective. And they're looking at North America as a market. I personally would really like them to set up shop in Canada. I would like to see Canada develop its own manufacturing capacity for wind power. And yet what I fear is going to happen is that all of that investment is going to go to the US. And whatever does get generated in the form of wind projects in Canada will be serviced from American manufacturing facilities. And that's what I think we have to start talking about. The Ontario government has been talking about green jobs as a result of the Green Energy and Green Economy Act that has now had third reading and will get royal assent in the next couple of weeks. And I think somehow there has to be leverage through the population, I think, and through the good work of Olivia and Nathan and others, that we need to get our governments at different levels to work more cooperatively, because it's really crazy that we're working at odds on this very important industry sector, which everybody recognizes is only going to grow, and everyone else, and we also recognize that we have major opportunities in Canada. The Canadian wind industry, and I've got some copies if people are interested, published this at the end of last year. This is our vision. It's for Wind Vision 2025, Powering Canada's Future. And what we're saying, it's a no-brainer that 20% of our new electricity sources can come from wind by 2025, that we have calculated the number of jobs that would mean, the amount of investment that would mean, the spin-offs, and all of the income that would go to largely rural municipalities, since most wind projects would end up in rural communities, and what this would mean for electricity prices for consumers and so on. This is available on the Canadian Wind Energy Association website, which is canwia.ca, and I would encourage you all to have a look if you're interested in this particular topic. And thank you for your attention.